In this video, we're going to show you to install the alternator on your Explorer Interceptor located underneath the hood. With the hood open, locate your battery on the driver's side of the engine compartment. This is your ground terminal here, and we're going to use a 10mm socket to loosen this nut. Once that's loose, go ahead and wiggle the terminal. I'm going to lift it up, peel it off, and set it aside. Now with the hood open, go ahead and locate your air intake tube with the air filter. First thing we want to do is disconnect this sensor right here. Now on the bottom side of this sensor is going to be a red lock tab. I'm going to use a pocket screwdriver and a mirror to go ahead and get underneath here and unlock this tab and then release it, and we'll show you that once I get it out. So there's a red lock tab, so you want to make sure that that is fully out. Beside the air filter lid here, there's going to be two spring clips. There's one down here. You're just going to pull out with it. Now this clip here is plenty visible. You're just going to grab that and undo it. And you're going to go inward, probably about 5 inches, and undo that one right beside. There's only two of those there. And right here, we have that wiring harness. We want to go ahead and use our trim tool to pop that up and out. Just kind of gently pull up on this as we're popping that out. And pull that off to the side. Now we have a vacuum hose coming over to the air intake tube. Now there's a little gray clip right here. It's kind of locked in place, so you need to push it towards the passenger side and then towards you. You can see how that loosens up. Once that loosens up, grab that hose and slip that right off. Swing that off to the side. And if you come on up here, right in front of the booster, there's a vacuum hose here. Grab that and simply pull that off. Beside that is going to be a hose clamp right here. It's a worm clamp. You can use an 8mm socket or a flathead screwdriver to loosen this hose clamp. Now you don't want to undo it, you just want to loosen it up. I want to go ahead and grab our air filter tube and everything. And we're going to lift this up and pull it towards the passenger side because the air filter lid box here has 3 tabs on the side here that are locked in. You can see that just came undone. Now we can go ahead and separate this from our throttle body. Sometimes you can use a screwdriver to assist you in pulling that off. There it is. Go ahead and remove this whole component and set it aside. Now right up underneath the radiator support here, you're going to find 2 10mm bolts right here. I want to loosen and remove these. Both of those are identical, so you don't have to worry about messing those up. And we should be able to lift up on this. The air filter base itself has plastic pins on the bottom that stick into rubber grommets. So this is loose, but we're going to go ahead and give it a quick little tug up and separate that. And you want to finagle this whole thing up and out. Now in the engine compartment, we're going to come over to the passenger side. It's going to be the front of the engine. Now we have our valve cover up on the top. And we're going to come straight down, and right here is our belt tensioner. We have our belt that runs around our alternator, runs down along the AC, runs across the bottom to our harmonic balancer, and then the belt comes back up to our tensioner. So it's pretty much a short run on this belt. It's always good before you remove the belt to go ahead and draw this out on a piece of paper so you're not coming back later on trying to figure out where that goes. Now the tensioner itself right here has a little square front right here, and we're going to go ahead and use our belt or our Serpentine tensioner tool here. You can use a regular ratchet if you want. So we have our Serpentine belt tensioner tool here, and we're going to go ahead and move this clockwise. Go ahead and slide that belt off. Now we have our upper radiator hose here that comes up on the passenger side. I want to go ahead and disconnect this and pull the hose off. Before you do this, make sure you put a catch can or a bucket underneath to catch the coolant that is going to leak out. Go ahead and take the hose and pull it up, pull it out of the retainer right here, and we're going to pull this up and secure it with a securing strap up and out of the way. I'm going to use a pocket screwdriver, and you want to go ahead and remove this here. You're going to come in between the bracket, the support itself, and the cooling fan, and we're going to pull this up gently, and you're going to put this behind it. You're going to push in and release the little tab. So that's the hook right there. And when you're reaching in, you're going to go in and you're releasing this hook. So you can just pop that out and set that aside. Now, in order to remove our cooling fan, we have to get this wiring harness out of the way. This is attached to the cooling fan assembly via some plastic clips. Use your trim tool. And you're just going to go around the perimeter, popping these retainers out. Once those are separated, we now want to go ahead and disconnect the electrical connectors. There's going to be one for the left fan and one for the right fan. And they're located just probably near the bottom of the fan motor assembly, so you kind of have to reach down and undo those. Now this connector, you can see the raised portion on the back side and the follow wiring harness into it. Now you can use a mirror to take a look up inside too, but it's simple. You're going to push in on this tab and pull it out. It is easier to do a two-hand on there. So you're going to push in the tab with your thumb. I'm using my left thumb to push in on that tab, and then my right hand to wiggle that connector free. And there it is. There's one on the other fan. It's identical. Let's go ahead and do that one. And the connector here is facing the passenger side. And do the same thing. I'm going to reach down, use my left thumb, push in on that tab. Right hand to go ahead and grab that connector. And there it is right there. Now there's going to be two 10mm bolts holding our cooling fan to the radiator assembly itself. It's going to be a 10mm bolt right here. I'm going to go ahead and loosen and remove this one. Don't lose it. We're going to be reusing that bolt. Now there's going to be one on the passenger side too, just about in the same location, but maybe about 2 inches lower, but same section of that cooling fan assembly. Now the other bolt we're talking about, it's right underneath our water neck here. If you go straight down, it's right here. Now this here on the passenger side is an 8mm. It's not a 10 like the driver's side. So go ahead and grab your ratchet. Okay, get that bolt out. Now here's the tip of the day. When doing this job, you definitely want to remove the wiring harness. But on the bottom of the cooling fan assembly on the driver's side, there is a wiring harness that runs across. Don't forget to pull that one out. When you go to pull this up, if that's still attached, you're going to be yanking and pulling. This is going to be a bear trying to get that out. So make sure you go along the bottom on the driver's side. Just run your hand down there with your trim tool and pop that off. We're now going to lift this straight up. There's lock tabs on the driver and passenger side that hold us to the radiator. So you're going to lift it up. You're going to feel the fin kind of wobble around. Now we need to finagle this up and around everything. So this is where moving hoses and harnesses and all that fun stuff comes into play. Now remember how you're doing this here, because you need to drop that back down inside later on. Now right on the front side here, you're going to go ahead and pull this harness back, and you're going to locate an electrical connector on the back side of the alternator, and on the top is going to be the positive wire underneath this plastic cover. We need to disconnect and remove both. Electrical connector, there's going to be a little pinch tab on the side of the connector facing the engine. So you're just going to basically reach down, pinch it in, and disconnect that connector. Sometimes if you take a little bit of spray solvent and spray it around the connector, it'll help you release that. On the top, I want to go ahead and pop off this cover. Slide the little plastic cover off to the side. Sometimes you can slide it down the harness. Now the nut here is a 13 millimeter. We're going to use our swivel head ratchet. Just helps us get in there a little bit easier. 13 millimeter socket. Remove that nut and pull that harness off. Now here we are looking at the alternator, and our belt tensioner is right beside it. There's going to be 2 bolts we need to get to. The first one we need to get to is, I'm going to show you with the tip of the screwdriver, is this one right down here. And then up top we have this stud right here, and there's going to be a nut on the inside of the stud here that we need to loosen and remove. So let's go ahead and get to it. So we're going to use a deep 15 millimeter socket on the upper stud here. I'm using a swivel head ratchet. Give myself a little bit more room to go ahead and work. Now you can see I switched over to a shallow socket and a rigid ratchet here. It's because I was able to get the nut close enough to the end of the stud here, and that's going to give me a little more clearance to go ahead and manipulate and move my tool here to get that nut off. There we go. Remove that nut and set it aside. All right, so we're using our deep 15 millimeter socket and our rigid ratchet on this here. There's that bolt. Now on the stud right here, it has a hex head on it, and what I'm using is a 9/32 socket on my 1/4 inch ratchet. Now I know a lot of these fittings are metric on the vehicle, but the 9/32 fits that perfect. Generally that would be an 8 millimeter, but my 9/32 was pretty snug and fit really nice. You don't want to risk stripping that off, so make sure that whatever you're using is going to be proper And then hopefully you get it to a point you can unthread it. Just do it by hand. There it is right there. And there is the head. Go ahead and grab that alternator. Wiggle it and pull it out towards the radiator. And pull it up and out. Go ahead and grab that new alternator, lower that down. And once you have that stud caught a few threads, I'm going to go ahead and throw my ratchet on there. I'm going to run that stud all the way down. By installing the upper stud, it's going to allow you just to basically swing the alternator like a pendulum, and it should line right up with that lower section. And then we'll put our lower bolt in place. I'm going to run that stud right in until it bottoms out. All right, there it is. Before we put the nut on, let's go ahead and get that lower bolt in. All right, so now that we have the lower bolt in, we didn't start any threads yet, but what we're going to try and do now is pivot this up. Let's go ahead and get to that lower bolt. And it pretty much lines itself up. You can wiggle that alternator a little bit, but thread that in as far as you can by hand. I'm going to go ahead and snug that down. Now that we have that bottom bolt snug down below, I'm going to go ahead and take the nut and install it on the stud. I'm going to go ahead and snug that down. All right, now I want to go ahead and torque both of these down to 35 foot-pounds. Here it is. Go ahead and grab your wiring harness. Line that up. Install lock washer and the nut. All right, let's go ahead and snug that down. So you want to just go ahead and make sure that's good and snug. You don't want to over tighten it. Go ahead and grab that plastic protector here. Slide that up and over, push it on, make sure it clips on. And then we have our electrical connector here. Simply line that up. Push it on. You can hear it and feel it engage. Let's go ahead and lower down our fan assembly. As you're doing this here, you just kind of finagle things around, moving harnesses and all kinds of stuff like that to get this to drop down in a position. On the driver's side, we have these coolant hoses here. Probably the toughest thing you have to finagle around. Now, as you're lowering the fan assembly down into place, on the top of the cooling fan assembly, there's going to be two tabs. They're kind of like hooks, and they're actually, when you get the fan down inside, these hooks actually rest on top of the radiator assembly. Okay, now that we have everything down in a position, just kind of look around, make sure there's no wires. We have your hood release cable. I want to make sure that's not stuck underneath the assembly. Make sure that's kind of pulled up, and the hood release cable goes above the cooling fan assembly, but below the intake tube ramp. Looks like we're in a good position here. On the driver's side of the cooling fan assembly, you're going to lift and lower this to get this hole to line up with the radiator. Go ahead and get that bolt started. Once you have this one started, we're going to repeat this process for the other side. Once they're both in, we're going to go ahead and snug them down. Okay, go ahead and snug that down. And do the same for over here. Connect the electrical connector to your fan motors. This is on the driver's side, and it comes in at the bottom here, a little bit off. Push in, you're going to feel it in, hear it click into place. I'm going to repeat this process for the passenger side fan assembly. I'm going to push that connector on the passenger side. You're going to feel and hear that one connect. When doing this here, make sure that the wiring harnesses or any of these other units here aren't going into the fan assembly. Don't forget to reattach the harness. It has these little plastic retainer buttons here that go into the fan assembly. You may have some of them, and other ones might be broken. If you have to, you can use some plastic wire ties. Install your harness up here. Bring your other fan harness over. And they have these little retainer buttons. Pop these into place. Install the upper radiator hose support bracket. We're now going to go ahead and release our upper radiator hose from our support straps here. Bring this over, and we're going to go ahead and get that radiator hose lined up. Now using our pliers here to go ahead and open this up. Go ahead and work that hose all the way on. Grab the upper lid here. I'm going to lower this down. Now when we do this, we're going to make sure that these 3 tabs line up on the outer portion of the air lid box. So you kind of have to drop that down and in, line those up, and then drop this down. Line this up with the throttle body. Wiggle the intake tube onto the throttle body, making sure that it's fully seated. I'm going to push this down. You want to make sure that you can go ahead and clip the clips on the back side. Go ahead and press up those snap clips. Go ahead, swing this over, line that up, and simply push it on. You're going to hear it and feel it engage. And if you come back up here, we have that vacuum hose. Be sure to line that up and just push that on. Grab your connector. Don't forget that this has the red lock tab on it, so once you press this on, you need to reach underneath and push that lock tab in. You want to go ahead and install that little plastic tab here, right on the side of the air filter lid box. And if you go back up to the throttle body side, we need to go ahead and tighten down the air intake. Go ahead and snug that down. It doesn't have to be super tight. You just want to make sure that it's snug in sealing everything. Give it a little wiggle. That's good and tight. We want to go ahead and pull the belt up behind the pulley itself. And then we can go ahead and get that set. Now we have our belt lined up on our crankshaft. It's underneath our tensioner. And we have our tool set up here. Now that we have the belt on the alternator, we're going to go ahead and release our tool. Pop that off. Now you do want to go ahead and double check, inspect all of your pulleys. Go ahead and inspect the alternator, the AC, the crankshaft. Make sure that the belt is fully seated inside the ribs. Reach down, make sure that it's on the tensioner pulley wheel properly. With your hood open, go ahead and locate the expansion tank here on the passenger side of the engine bay. Loosen it and open up and unscrew this cap. Set that aside. Go ahead and grab a clean funnel, and we use the appropriate coolant recommended for this model vehicle. And we're going to go ahead and start filling it. Remove the funnel and install the cap. Go ahead and wipe down any residual coolant that might be around the reservoir itself. Then once you're done with this here, you can go ahead and start up the vehicle. It's always recommended to go ahead and put that heat on high. When that thermostat opens up, it's going to go ahead and circulate everything nicely. Go for a road test. Now after you drive around for about 5-10 minutes, you can come on back and check that level. If everything looks okay, you're good to go. And if you do need to top off this unit here, you're only going to access it through here, but never open this when it's hot. You only open this here when the engine is cooled off. Now that we're done here, we can go ahead and reconnect our battery. Go ahead and grab that ground terminal, slide that over the post, wiggle that down as far as it'll go, and then we're going to snug up that nut. Give it a twist, make sure it's good and secure. At that point there, you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.